Hey everyone, welcome to part 117 of my Pokemon game series in Unity. So in this video, we'll start the implementation of our summary screen for showing the data of players' Pokemon. So this is a page for showing things like the stats and the XP of the Pokemon. In the future, we'll also create another page for showing things like the moves, and we'll look at how to switch between those. So the summary screen is made up of lots of small UI elements. So we'll be designing the UI of the summary screen by nesting vertical and horizontal layout groups so that all these UI elements will scale with screen size. So yeah, let's look at how to implement this. By the way, our team just released a parkour and climbing system asset on Unity's asset store. It's an out-of-the-box system with which you can set up parkour and climbing mechanics in your game in just a few minutes. This is the most advanced version of a parkour and climbing system I've created so far. It comes with features like predictive jumps, procedural climbing, balancing on narrow obstacles, etc. So I'll leave a link to it in the description if you want to check it out. The asset also comes with the entire source code. So if you want, you can also review the code and learn how each feature is implemented. Alright, so let's start the video. So let's start building the UI for the summary screen. So I'll go inside the UI canvas prefab. And in here, I'll create a new game object called summary screen. Alright, let me just double click on the canvas to zoom out. And I want the summary screen to take up the whole canvas. So I'll hold Alt and I'll make it stretch on both sides. Okay. Let me just disable the dynamic menu box so that we can focus on the summary screen. And let's start creating the UI for this. So I want to create a summary screen similar to the one in Gen 3. So I'll be creating a UI like this. And I want to create this UI in a scalable way. Okay. So by scalable way, what I mean is when we change the screen size, the UI should scale accordingly. Okay. So for a UI like summary screen with a lot of different elements, it's a bit hard to make it scale with screen size. We can't just do it by using the anchor presets. Since you have multiple elements here, we'll have to make sure that those elements are arranged correctly when the screen scales. Okay. So to make it scalable, what we can do is we can create a UI entirely using auto layouts like horizontal and vertical layout groups. Okay, so if you take this UI, these two components will be a vertical layout group and these two components will be inside a horizontal layout group, and similarly all these components will be inside a vertical layout group. So we'll have layout groups nested inside each other, and this will help us to maintain a ratio between all these elements while our UI scales. Okay, so let's start building our summary screen while keeping that in mind. So first, I'll split the summary screen into two components, header and the content. So first let me create a image for the header, and then I'll create an image for the content. All right, and we want to arrange this by using the vertical layout group. All right, and I'll also turn on control child size, width and height. Okay, and let me just give them a different color to differentiate it. So I want the header to be this blue color, and for the content I'll just give this color. Okay, so the header and content is arranged as vertical list, but right now both the components are taking up the same space, right? We only want a header to take up a little bit of space and the rest should be for the content. So to do that, we can use the layout element component. So I'll select both the header and the content, and I'll add a layout element component to both of them. Okay, and here we want to use the layout element to tell Unity that the header should only take up a little bit of space and the rest should be for the content. Okay, so we can do that by using the flexible height property of the layout element. So let me turn that on, and this will allow us to specify a ratio. So right now both the header and content has 1 for the flexible height, but if I change the content to 9, you can see that the content is taking up most of the height in the vertical layout group, right? So this is like a ratio. Out of 10, the header is taking only 1 and the content is taking 9. Or we can say the header will take 10% of the height and the content will take the rest, which is 90%. Okay, so the benefit of specifying the height in ratio is that if we change the screen size, you can see that both the header and the content is changing because we have specified the ratio and not a specific height. All right, so we'll be using this technique to build our entire UI. So next, in the header, I want to add a text. So I'll go to UI, and since we updated the version of Unity, we don't have text over here. Instead, it's inside legacy. Okay, you can also use text mesh row if you want, but I'll just stick with text because we have been using this from the start. Okay, so here I'll add a text and I'll call this page name, and I'll change the font to Orange Kit. I'll make it bold, change the font size to 40, and align everything to the center. And I'll change the text to something like Pokemon skills. Okay, so let me place this towards left side. Actually, I'll change the horizontal alignment to left, and I'll give some space over here. Okay, so next we need to start building the content area of the summary screen. So again, I'll split the content area to 2 parts, left and right. So first let me create a game object called left, and then I'll create another one called right. Okay, and these 2 elements will be arranged by using a horizontal layer group. All right, and they wanted to control the child size. So now if you look at this, you can see that they are taking up half the width of the content. Okay, so I want to use the layout element here also, and this time I'll use the flexible width property to control the ratio of the width. So I want the right to take up a bit more area. I'll actually add an image to the right so that you can differentiate between the left and right game object properly. Okay, and I want the right to take up a bit more width. So let's say we want the right to take around 65% of the screen. So I'll set the flexible width as 6.5, and the rest should be taken by the left part. So I'll change this to 3.5 for 35%. Okay, so next let's create the UI elements inside the left part. So here I'll create a new image, and I'll just call this something like basic details. Okay, so let me make this take up the entire space, and I'll just reduce this a bit from the bottom. Okay, and I'll change its color to this yellow color. And in here, I want to show the name, level, and image of the Pokemon. So first I'll add an image. Okay, I'll just call this Pokemon image. And then I'll add a text called Pokemon name text. Okay, so again I'll change all the settings of the text. I'll make the font size of this 30. Okay, let me make it bigger so that we can see the text. And next I'll just duplicate this and create a text with level. Alright, so since we have three elements here, again we'll be using the vertical layout group to arrange this. So here let me add a vertical layout group, and I want it to control the child size. So right now all three elements are taking up the same space. So let's change that by using the layout element component. So here I'll turn on the flexible height property, and I want both the Pokemon text to take 1 and the Pokemon image to take a higher value like 8. Okay, let me just add a padding to the vertical layout group to make it look better. So I'll set the left and right padding as 20, and I'll set the top padding as something like 10 or 20. Okay, let me just change the size a bit. So yeah, that should be good. And by the way, I'll just change the placeholder text over here so that we won't get confused. So next, let's create the UI elements in the right side. So first, I'll actually change the color of the right side to this green color. And by the way, I've already created a palette of all the colors that I want to use so that I won't waste time trying to pick a good color while recording this tutorial. Okay, so you can pause the video and type in these values if you want this exact color. Okay, so in the right part, this is where we want to show things like the stats table, the experience to reach the next level, and all that. So what I'll do is I'll split this into 5 parts. So first I'll create a game object, and I'll just call this stats heading. Okay, and then I'll duplicate that, and I'll create another one called stats table. Okay, and then I'll duplicate that, and I'll create another one called experience heading, and then I'll create another one called experience table, and finally the fifth one will be experience bar. Okay, so all these elements will be used to show the Pokemon skills like this, and this will be shown in the Pokemon skills page of our summary screen. We'll also add other pages for showing things like the moves of the Pokemon in the future, and that will also be in the right area. So what we can do is here I'll put all this in another game object called Pokemon skills. Okay, and I want this to take up the entire space of the right component, and all these game objects will be a child of the Pokemon skills. Alright, so the Pokemon skills is the page for showing things like summary, XP, and all that. So let's arrange all of these as a vertical layout group. So I'll add vertical layout group to the Pokemon skills game object, and I want this to control the child size. So now all these elements will be taking up the same space. We can add a layout element if you want some of the elements to take up some extra space. So let's actually do that because the stats table will need some extra space. So I'll select everything and I'll add a layout element component. All right. And I'll turn on the flexible height property, and the flexible height of all the elements will be 1. But we want the height of the stats table to be a bit higher, so we can try increasing that. I'll just set it to something like 1.5. Okay, so we have divided the Pokemon skills page to 5 parts. So now let's start creating the UI in it. So first, in the stats heading, I just want to show a text as the heading. So we can actually copy this text so that I don't have to change the font and set the alignment and all that again. So I'll copy that text and I'll paste it as a child of our stats heading. Okay. And let me just rearrange its position. So I'll hold Alt and I'll set the anchor preset again. Okay, it's over there for some reason. Oh, I pressed the wrong button, not Alt. So let me do that again. And now it should be placed correctly. And by the way, we could add some padding for the vertical layout group. So I'll add 20 as the left and right padding. That looks much better. And let me change the text to stats. So this will be a heading for our stats table. I'll also change the name of the text. Okay. And next, we can copy this and create a heading text for the XP table. Okay, I'll name this to XP heading text. And let me reposition this again. So I'll hold Alt and I'll change the anchor preset. And I'll also change the text to XP. Okay. So next, let's go ahead and create the table for showing the stats. So we'll be doing this by combining horizontal and vertical layout groups. So here, first I'll create an empty game object called columns, and this will contain all the columns of the table. So I want this to take up the entire space. So I'll expand it in both sides. And in here, we need to create 4 columns, kind of like this. So let me right click and add a new image. Okay, I'll just place it over here. You don't have to be exact because we'll be using a horizontal layout group for this anyway. So I'll just name this one as column. And in here, we're going to have 3 text. So those will be the 3 rows of the column. So let me just go ahead and create a text. I'll just call this one row text. So let me change its font to Orange Kit. I'll make it bold. I'll make the font size something like 24. Okay. And let me also change the alignment to center. And I'll just write HP here. So we need a text like this for all the stats. So let me duplicate this and create one for the attack. And then I'll duplicate it again and create one for the defense. Okay. And then to arrange this, we'll use a vertical layout group. All right. and I want this to control the child size. So this is one of the columns of the table. So I'll just duplicate this and create 3 other columns. Okay, and then we can just use a horizontal layout group to arrange these columns. All right, I want this to control the child size. So there are a few things I want to change here. First, I'll select the first and third column and I'll change its color to this. Okay, so this will be used to specify the name of the stat. So over here, it'll be special attack, and the next one will be special defense, and the last one will be speed. Okay, and then the white column will be used to display the value of the stat. So what we can do is we can just put a placeholder value over there for now. Okay, I'll just select all the rows and I'll change its text to something like 999 just for a placeholder value. Okay, the HP will be displayed as 2 values, the current and the max HP. So let me just write that here. So yeah, this is how you create a table by combining the horizontal and vertical layout groups. So now we can just copy this columns from here to create our experience table. So I'll paste it as a child of the experience table, and let me actually set the anchor again by holding Alt to reset its position. So in this table, we'll only have 2 columns. So let me just delete the other 2. And we only need 2 rows. So let me also delete the row at the end. Okay. So this will be used to show the total experience point of the Pokemon and the experience to reach the next level. So I'll change this to xp.points, and I'll change the next one to next level XP. Again, I'm just using this summary screen as a reference. You don't have to follow along exactly. You can give whatever you want. So here, I'll also align this to the left and align these two text to right. Okay. And for the XP points, we can just give a large number like this as a placeholder. And let me just give some padding for this horizontal layout group. Okay, we can't give for the horizontal layout group. We have to give for the column itself. Okay. So we have created the UI for the stats and XP table. So next, let's create a XP bar over here, kind of like this. So we have already created an XP bar in our battle HUD. So let me go to the battle system. Okay. And here inside the player HUD, we have already created an XP bar. So I'll just copy that and let me go back to the UI canvas. Okay. And I'll paste the XP bar in here. All right. Sometimes when you paste a UI like this from a different canvas, its scale might be messed up. So in case you don't see this bar over here, just change the scale to 1. But in this case, it was fine. So let me just place it somewhere over here. All right. So that is all we need in the Pokemon skills page of the summary screen. So everything here is created by using auto layouts. So it should scale well when we change the screen size. Okay, and you can also try changing the size from the game tab. Okay, it'll look a bit stretched, but the point is the UI elements won't break apart since they are held together by horizontal and vertical layout groups. So we have created the UI for showing the skills in the summary screen. So next we have to show the data of the player Pokemon in this UI. So we'll be doing that in the next video. So I'll stop the video here. If you think the video is helpful, please leave a like and consider subscribing to my channel. That'll really help me out. You can also support the series on Patreon if you can afford it. So thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.